Okay, so we're back to our home tab now, and I'm just going to talk you through some more of the other tabs and ribbons that we haven't gone through. So I'm just going to open up a new document. So I'm just going to go to blank document here on my home tab, and that will just take me into a nice new blank document. So obviously we've gone through the home tab. We utilized some of the insert options where we were looking through the cupcake activity. Now, there are some other tabs on here that you might like to take a note of. Now, one of the other ones that people look at would be the layout option. So the layout tab allows you to look at the way that your page is being presented on the screen and also when it's being printed as well. So over here, you've got your margins. So your margins allows you to kind of have the normal page margin. So it could be like a normal. So in this instance, it's 2.54 centimeters all the way around, and it gives you a nice kind of border for your document. There are other templated ones. So you can have a narrow border, or you can have a moderate border, a wide border, mirrored border if you want them side by side. Or you can actually customize them as well. So you can actually customize how you want your margins to look. So the reason for having margins is that when you're printing, your printer needs a slight area in order for it to be able to print effectively. So that's why sometimes when you're printing a document, like things might go off the page or things might not print completely in your header or footer. And it's purely because your margins have just been set slightly differently. So if anything like that were to happen, the best place to go is to your layout tab, looking at your layout ribbon, and then just making sure that your margins are looking good. So along from your margins, you've then got your orientation. So at the minute, my page is on a portrait, and that means that it's kind of quite a long document. It means like a normal kind of type document. If I wanted to, I could change it to a landscape document as well. So it means that I'm looking at it across the page. And if I just do my control and roll my mouse, you can actually see the full page there. It just kind of minimizes the view for you. And you can see that I've got a nice landscape page there as well. You've also then, next to your orientation, you've got your size. So what Word will normally do is it'll either set it to an A4 size, which is an A4 page size for printing, or it might set it to a letter size for you as well. It just depends on how your Word is set up for you for your organization. Obviously, however it's set up, you do have the ability to go and change it through this option. There are lots of different paper sizes as well, right down to kind of index cards. Now, one thing I find really useful is that when I've got my orientation around and I've got my page as a landscape, what you can do is you can actually split your page into columns. Now, columns is a really good way of being able to utilize one page, but having all of the information you need split across two pages. It's a bit like a book, for example. So I tend to use this on a landscape because actually most of the time, if I'm going to be using columns, I want to get all of the information across the page just in two columns. And I'm just to show you that, I'm just going to go back to the home tab. I'm going to put my paragraph spaces on as well, because that enables you to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some paragraph spacing in just down on that first page. And then I'm going to take you back to my layout tab. And I'm going to add in columns. Okay, so I'm just going to add my column. I'm just going to click on the first paragraph and spacer. What I want to do is I want to split my page across two elements. So I'm just going to split the page across now. So as you can see, it doesn't look like much has happened. I've still got all my paragraph spaces down on the left-hand side. But if you look at the top here, you can see now what's happened is that because I've selected two columns, it's actually split my page into two. So if I now go to the bottom paragraph spacer and I continue to return, it means that I've now got a space on this landscape page for me to type across two parts. And these act as two separate pages now. So I can type here, I can type, whatever you want me to do across the page. I can insert some images as well. So let's just insert a picture. Just go to stock and add. We've been talking about cake quite a lot, so I'm just going to add in a picture of cake. Not to make you hungry. That looks like a good picture. Just going to pop that one in. So you can see that I can insert my picture. It hasn't affected the other side. And then over here, I can add in more text as well, and I can add in more things. Now, something to be aware of is obviously the more paragraph spacing you put in, the more that's going to have an indent. So if you, for example, want to add more space over here and you're adding more text over here and you start returning, what's going to happen is that information then spills into the other page. So it's very much like you know, how Word works. It's just moving the information across into the next available space. So again, if you're being quite particular and you want your images and things to be in the right place, then that's just something to be aware of when you're using your layout options and you're looking at your kind of different columns. Now with columns, you can add lots of different columns. You can add in 3 columns. You can have something which is left justified. So you've got something which has a smaller column on the left and a wider column to the right. Then got the right alignment, where you've got a smaller column on the right hand side and a wider column on the left hand side as well. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So here, for example, so realistically, you wouldn't really want your image there because it's going to be going off the page. So actually, you might want that over this side, for example, and it gives you some stuff. So that's quite a nice way, and that's a really good tool to use if you're creating posters or if you're looking at making some kind of internal things that you might want to promote when you're at work. So I'm just going to delete that. To go back, you can just turn off and put it onto 1. And that you can see at the top there, it's now kind of made that one whole page again. And then also, I'm just going to change my orientation back to portrait as well. So it's quite easy to manipulate and use. Now, we did talk a little bit about page breaks. So up here, you've got slightly different breaks as well. So you've got things like section breaks, you've got column breaks, you've got text wrapping. So column breaks, the columns, obviously, we just inserted columns. If you didn't want your page to move, then obviously you could insert a column break at the very bottom of that page. It means that your text would just kind of get fitted into that particular space there. You've got some text wrapping elements there. You've got next page. One that I use quite frequently is the continuous page wrap. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to have text on a page like this. I'm just going to show you. And if I go over the page, I'm just going to make that a bit smaller so you can see it. And actually at the bottom of this page, I actually want to change the landscape of this page. I want this to be landscape rather than portrait. What I can do is at the bottom of that page, I can add a continuous break at the bottom of that page. So if I add a section break or a continuous break there, and then I click onto this page here, what I can do now, it gives me the option to be able to move my pages around and actually make it so that my document can actually be a bit more versatile as well. So actually, if I just go down to the bottom there and make a second page, if I add in another continuous break there or another section break, and then actually change this page back to portrait, you can see what I've been able to do is actually kind of create a kind of a castle style page layout. So it means I've got a nice kind of element over on this first page for text and information. It might be that I've got a bit of a layout options here and I could change that and have some images on there, maybe with a right adjustment. And then on the last page, I could just go back to text again. So those section breaks or those continuous breaks are really useful when you're looking at kind of making your pages or making your document a bit more versatile. So I'm just going to delete all of those as well. Let's get rid of all those breaks there and make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's breaks are very, very useful. You've then got options like line numbers. So it just shows the line numbers for you. So it just knows exactly where you are. These are quite good if you're kind of putting scripts together or you're getting or you're putting some kind of document together that lots of people are going to read and you're just trying to make it so it's referenced. And you've also got hyphenation as well. Now with hyphenation, I don't tend to use this much myself, but it's just where the word runs out of room really. It moves it down to the next line, and when you turn on to the hyphenation, it will just hyphenate it instead for you. So it kind of means that instead of you having to kind of use words on separate lines, it means that it will just hyphenate it for you. So you've got that continuous kind of text. I don't tend to like using those. I like to have the whole word together because I think it's easier to read. But again, it's there. It's whatever preference you have really. Next to that, you've then got your indenting and your spacing. So this just saves you having to do the right click and then go into your paragraph options as well. So what this enables you to do, it enables you to kind of indent as much as you need to. You can see that my backwards P is moving across the page depending on how many centimeters. And also, if I just show you here, like with the paragraphing, just pop that all back. With paragraphing, I might actually want a slight space and before or after my text as well. So at the minute it's set at 8 points, but I actually might want to reduce that. I've got it on auto. I can make it so it's wider. I can make it so it's smaller as well. So, but the average that you normally have within a Word document is at 8 points anyway. Now with that, what you've also got on this layout option is that you've got some image elements as well. So remember before when we added an image, let me just insert an image again. If I just pop another cake image in there. Actually, let's do something different. Let's have some images of dogs. There we are. That's like quite a cute image. So let's pop that image in there. What will happen is that once I've inserted the image, obviously you normally get your picture format options as well that will pop up. But if I go to my layout tab, what will happen is because it's recognized that there's an image there, it does allow you on the layout tab to access some of those different kind of layout options as well, which we looked at before in the wrap text. You can bring images forward, so you've got layers of images. You can bring them forward or send them backwards. I'll just show you that as well. So let me just insert another image of a dog, just so you can see how that works. This little cheeky chap here that is looking up. So that, as you can see now, what that's now done is overlapped. So if I go to my layout options, what I can do is I can send that one backwards. So it means that this one is now overlapping. I can move that down slightly so it looks like they're looking at each other almost. So you've got that there. So you can see it kind of gives that nice seamless approach. Again, if I didn't want that, I could actually just send that one backwards if I like, and kind of move that down a little bit so you can see his face. So you've got those kind of options there. Selection pane just allows you to kind of select what picture you're looking at that point. So if you're formatting images, sometimes if you've got images on top of each other, it's quite difficult to be able to capture it, especially if they are completely overlapped. So actually, this just gives you the option to be able to select those pictures quite nicely as well. And actually, you can actually name those images. So you could like dog one, for example. Oops, dog one, and then this could be dog two as well. So just so you know what you're working with and how you're working on it as well. So again, so you've got that selection pane there. You've then got your alignment, so how you want that to be aligned on the page. So instead of you having to use your centralization, you could just say, well, actually, I want that to be aligned to the left or aligned in the center. So you don't have to play around with that. Let's just make that a little bit smaller so you can see that. So I'm just going to say that I want it aligned to the left. I want it to align to the right, or I want it to align in the middle. I want it to stay to the top, or I want it to be at the bottom, middle. So again, you can align that however you like. So it's just another way of moving things around. And the last thing you've got here is your rotation. So you might want to rotate or flip so that the pictures are kind of the opposite way around, really. So that's what we've got there. So I'm just going to pop that back again to where it was. There we are. So there we are. So again, with your layout options, you've got some different things there that you can have accessibility to. Right, so let me just delete those off again and just get back to our normal page. Okay, so we're going to skip reference tab because actually that's kind of more of an intermediate advanced aspect of Word. I'm just going to pop across to the review options here. So review is all about how we're doing spell check, making sure that we're looking at grammar. You could do your word count. You've got the accessibility options here as well. So you've got things like read aloud, you've got checking accessibility. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to our cupcake activity that we did a little bit earlier. And I think it was this one here, just in my downloads area. So just to make sure it's the right one I've got. And what I can do, if I go to my review options, I'm going to click on editor. And what editor enables us to do, it'll actually scan the document for you, and it'll tell you kind of how the written text is. So I've just noticed I've got my my paragraph spacing there. So I'm just going to turn those off under my home tab, and then kind of flip back to my review tab and have a look at our elements of editing. So it tells me there I've got a 74% score, and this is a formal writing element that is being studied at. So actually, it's not formal; it's a casual thing. So I'm actually going to have it so it's a casual writing element. So it's now telling me it's at 84%. So what I would now do is look at maybe some of the things that I might like to improve as part of that document. So if I go to the grammar options, it's saying that actually you might want to add in some full stops. So I can go in and I can flick through some of those things. You know, I'm not going to argue with it. It's telling me that my grammar is not that great. Okay, so I'm going to add those particular things. So my grammar is now completed. It's saying that there's some formality issues. So it's saying it makes 12. So it's actually saying maybe you should write 12. I'm going to ignore that because actually this is a recipe. If I wanted to ignore it, I could ignore once, or I could just say stop checking the document, stop checking that particular element of it within the document. But because we've got ounces and grams and stuff down here, it's likely that that's going to pop up too. So I'm actually going to keep it as it is because I think it's nice and clear for the individual. So I'm just going to ignore that. Again, 8 has come up, so I'm going to ignore that. And as you can see, it's now saying 1. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to ignore 1 orange and 1 orange there as well. So actually, it's now telling me that the formality has been checked. And then there's some punctuation conventions as well. So it's saying that I've got things in certain places, or I should have things in places as well. So sugar, egg, there should be a comma as well. So now that little ping there is telling me that I've got pretty much everything spot on. Now, if I click over here, I should be able to click on OK, and then I should be able to scroll down as well. So actually, 98%, I'm quite happy that it's now telling me I've got 100%. That's brilliant. So it's just updating. So there we are. So it now tells me that I've got a good thing. I'm just going to save my document just so that I've saved all those parts. So I now, I quite like the editor option because it kind of covers everything. It's not just about spelling and grammar. It's covering kind of how the document is written and all of those types of things as well. Now, the thesaurus element up here, it just helps you kind of look up particular words. So sometimes in documents, you don't want the same word repeated. So it's a good way of using the thesaurus is just to kind of suggesting another way of saying what you mean, really. So it looks at for certain words or phrases that you might like to input instead of utilizing the same word or phrase again and again. I've just got highlighted and now it's giving me some different options. It's saying then, besides, in addition to, also, plus. And rather than saying and quite a lot, you could actually use some of those other options that the thesaurus is giving you. The next thing we've got on our review option is our word count. So it's now telling me that I've got 3 pages, which we know we have. It's around 350 words, and there are 1,662 characters with no spaces, and so on. So it's telling me how many paragraphs, how many lines, and I've asked it to include text box, footnotes, and endnotes as well. Obviously, if I take that off, it will reduce it slightly. Now, the read aloud option is comes under kind of some of the accessibility elements. So you've got read aloud, checking accessibility of the document, how you might like to translate the document into different languages, and then obviously just looking at the language for proofing as well. So if you're working within different organizations that are across the globe, then actually this might be a really useful tool for you. Now, I'm just going to show you how the read aloud works. I'm just going to click on it. Hopefully you can hear that.
Chocolate Orange Cupcakes by Joanne Wheatley from the Great British Bake Off. Preparation time is less than 30 minutes. Cooking time is 30 minutes to 1 hour. Makes 12 small fairy cakes or 8 large cupcakes.
So you can see actually from playing that through, it actually reads it through for you. It's quite step by step. And it means that sometimes when you've got lots of words on a document, you might not necessarily want to read that, but you'd be quite happy to listen to it and digest it. And it takes into consideration some of those people that might need those accessibility options available to them. So over here, it just says that you can check accessibility of the document. So it's about keeping things inclusive. So let's have a look at checking accessibility. So there's a missing object description. So what that means is that if I click on group 1, it's saying that this shape here doesn't really have anything to describe what it is. So you can actually add a description there. So it could just be cover page mount, for example, the mark as decorative. Okay, which means actually it won't get read out in this instance. I've now got text box image 2, so it's telling me that's my name. So again, I could mark as decorative. Graphic 2, which is my hat, I could mark that as decorative. Text box 1, I actually want that to read, so I can actually add a title to that as well. I've got explosion, so I'm just going to mark that as decorative. And then I've got picture 1, which is also decorative as well. Now the translate option allows you to translate the document. So it'll keep your original document, but it'll enable you to open up the document in a slightly different language. So if I look at the translator option, and click on translator, it's saying that it's auto-detected, that it's auto-detected in English, but actually I might want to translate it to, I don't know, let's translate it to French, which is the option there. So let's click on translate. What will then happen is it will go through the document and it will translate the document into French for us. So there we are. So it's now changed the document into French for us. It's actually recreated the document. So as you can see that we haven't lost the document. The original was just behind, but it's actually opened up a new document, which is now transferred into French language, which is brilliant. So it means that instead of you having to work your way through it or use Google Translate, you've actually got it all on there as integrated into the Word document. I'm just going to close that down. I'm not going to save it. I'm not worried about saving it into French right now. I'm sure the French can make great chocolate orange cupcakes. But that just is an example of where you can do that. And obviously you can change the language. It's very easy to use. You then got language options as well. So you can set proof in language and language preferences. Now mine's all set to United Kingdom. So if you look at the very bottom of the page here, you can see it's set to United Kingdom. So, and that will probably be set up by your organization. If you needed to set that up, then you just need to go to your file options element and then just set the language preferences there. Now, what you can also do within your review option is that you can leave comments as well. So if you're proofreading a document for somebody and you wanted to leave them, comments on a document, you can basically highlight a word, click on new comment, and that will actually then bring up a little comment, and it will say your name and who's left the comment. So you could leave something there's so you could put something like good work, goof, good work, Dan. And actually then post that comment. You can use the @ sign as well. So actually what would happen is that if they're within your organization, you can actually leave good work at Dan Coxedge, and then that would also let them know that you've left a comment within the document as well. So so there's how to add a comment. You can also then look at all the comments. So you can go to show comments there, and that will actually show them up in the list. So I prefer it in a list rather than within the document. So if I click on list, it brings up an element on the right hand side. If you were to do it from within the document, it'll bubble the comments out for you. We're not going to go through track changes or accepting and rejecting at this stage. So again, that's more of an intermediate thing. So kind of we're going to stop it there for the review tab. The last tab we're going to look at is the view tab. And this is just looking at how you have your document laid out. So I'm going to stick with the chocolate orange cupcakes document that we've created. And what I'm going to do is just going to show you some of these different ways that you can actually read the document. So at the minute, this is classed as a print layout. So I'm just going to reduce the size just so you can see it. And if I go into read mode, what will happen is that it will take away all of the other parameters for you. And actually it'll create the document like a book for you. So you can see up at the top here, you still got access to some of your tools, and you can close it and you can go back again. But the idea is that you can flick your way through it as if you're reading a book on your screen, which is sometimes a little bit easier, especially when you've just finished something and you want to just kind of have an overview of what it looks like and how it's going to print. Down here, you do have some shortcuts. So it's in read mode here. I can change it back to print layout, or I can go to view at the top here and I can change it back to print layout as well here if I wanted to. So I'm just going to pop down to here, pop that back to print view or print layout view so I can actually see it. There is also a web layout view as well. So this is what your document would look like if it were to be published as a web page. So there we are. So that's how it's going to look. So it scrolls down. You can see all the different elements are there, kind of scrolling down. So it looks very much like a web page. There are other things as well. You can outline it. So this is what it would look like as an outline document. If I go back to your view options and just put that back to print layout. And then what you can also do under view is you can look at it as a draft as well. So it means that if you remember Word, if you're as old as I am and you remember the old days of Word, this is kind of how Word would used to look. It was very much all left aligned, and actually you would just create your document, and you then have to go to print preview to see what it's going to look like. But now we've got the handy print layout option. You then got the immersive stuff as well. So I'm just going to pop that back to page layout. But you've got things like focus. That means that you're focusing, everything around the document has disappeared. And it means that you can work on the document still as you normally would, but actually it just means everything around the document has disappeared. And you just basically just need to close out of that or reduce it, and that takes you back to your normal document. You've then got vertical and side by side. So this is at the minute is set to vertical, but if I wanted to look at my document side by side, I could do that as well. And then you've just got a couple of kind of formatting things really now. So ruler is about taking the ruler tab. So you can see at this bar at the top here, I quite like having my ruler on because it means I can work out my spacing and things. You've also got grid lines. Now, grid lines is quite useful if you're using images and you want to make sure that it's perfectly aligned in certain places. I don't tend to use grid lines. I don't particularly like the look of it in Word, although in PowerPoint, grid lines are quite useful because it helps you align things all in the same place. And last thing you've got there is your navigation pane as well. Now, your navigation pane allows you to kind of look at where certain headings are. So remember, those headings are put on for ingredients and method. Now they're there, but again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because they're more of an intermediate kind of advanced options there where you're creating contents pages and things. Over here, you've got thumbnails, so just makes your screen very small. Again, you click on it to move it away. And then over here, you've just got different splits and arranging. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on any of these elements down here because these are more kind of intermediate and advanced options of the View tab. Now, if all else fails and you really need some help and guidance, you must remember that in any of the Microsoft applications, you do have a very helpful help tab. And obviously the big question mark will take you through to the help articles that they have available within Word. So things like looking how to collaborate, looking how to mail merge, all of that stuff. And then also you've then got, you know, if you're really finding things really difficult, you can get support from people. And there's also videos as well. There's training videos that you can access as well. So over here, like how to lay out pages and how to save and print. So don't ever feel like you're on your own. There's lots of accessibility on how to kind of get support and help guides when you're using Microsoft Word. Right, I think that's pretty much everything on the tabs and the ribbons. What we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you how you can utilize Microsoft OneDrive and actually show you how to share documents really, really easily. So what I've actually done at the minute is that I've got this document saved on my computer itself. So this is down in my downloads area on my PC. What I would like to do is actually transfer this document into my OneDrive. There are a couple of ways you can do that. So you can do it the old-fashioned way, which is by going to File, going to Save As, and then finding the file that you'd like it to go in. So I could save it in my switch direction file. I'm going to call it the same name. And then I could just literally just save it into the front of my OneDrive. So just so it's accessible. Obviously, I could go into folders and stuff if I wanted to. But in this instance, I'm just going to save it into my OneDrive. You could do it that way. Another way of doing it is by clicking on this autosave option. So if you click on autosave when a document isn't in your OneDrive, what it will do is it'll say to you, where would you like to save your document? And actually what will happen is if you put it into your OneDrive, it will actually save it directly into your OneDrive. And it means that as you're working through that document, it will automatically save the document for you. Now, this is a really handy tool. So if you're in an organization where you might have power outages, or if you're working from home and your battery runs out, it means that all of your document will get saved up to the very last change that you've made. I'm going to upload it to the switch direction OneDrive. And as you can see now, my option for on is there, and it means that it's now automatically saving. And what this also does mean is that I can actually now share the document with people. So it means that I can go in and I can share this document with people I work with. So I'm just going to pop this document into, I've just clicked on the share option, and now it's now saying who would I like like to share this document with. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to I'm just going to send it via Word. I'm going to give them view access. I can give them edit access if I wanted to, but I'm just going to give them view access. I'm going to pop this over to Lynn, who works with me. I'm just going to put thought you may like this. Okay, and then put Dan. Okay. If you didn't want to send a message here, you can copy a link and then send the link over via email. And as you can see, it's set that anybody within switch direction can view the link. I can change that as well. So I can have it so that people I choose or people with existing access can view it or can edit it. So it means that if you're looking at sharing this document with lots of people, lots of times, you can make it quite specific to those people, and you can also make it editable for them as well. So I'm going to invite her to view. And what we'll then say is, right, you've now invited Lynn to view this document. And actually it means that when she checks her emails, she'll have an email from me that says, Dan, I shared this document with you, and it will have all that information on there. She'll click on a link and then she'll be able to see that.